All right, we're getting jamming with Jamboard, and on the screen we see an exercise I'd like to do with you. Even before I say anything about Jamboard or you use this and learn about the tools, there are Post-it notes across the bottom. So once you have opened up this Jamboard, and for the recording, this Jamboard is going to be in the video description. Pick a name, if it's your name, or if you're watching the recording, you just might need to pick one of the Post-its and move it to how you're feeling right now. We know returning to school next fall, we're going to definitely spend more time with the social and emotional needs of our students. And that's what I'm doing here to model for you in our training, is having a check-in type frame in Jamboard. And all you have to do is move your mouse over the screen and find, and I believe, let's see who we don't have here. Lori joined us, so welcome. But we do have a few folks who are no show. So I want to grab like Karen's name. And all you do is take that and drag and drop it. And I see we have multiple people viewing and no one has moved a Post-it yet. So I want to look in the
chat. It says that we're, or at least for mine, it says that I'm in view only.
It is. Okay, so that's something I need to adjust. So I'm going to click on the share button at the top right. And sure enough, so thank you for that. That was you, right, Melissa? Oh, I'll fix that. And that's something very important. My mistake will definitely illustrate to you the importance of, when you share your links, make sure that this setting is not just for viewer, it is set to editor. So now that that's done, I'm going to copy that fresh link. And some of you might just be able to refresh your screen, but just to be safe, I'm going to paste this again in our Zoom chat. And that will be the link I put into our description of the recorded video. So look at them moving. Okay. Whew. So collaboration and self check-ins. This is a way to use Jamboard. We think for our littles, you already do something like this, likely with a whiteboard program you have, such as Smart Notebook or Mimeo. You use them to have lunch counts, attendance, etc. So we want to stay student-centered when we're collaborating, and it's a very simple and easy tool to do that with. Could you do it with Google Slides? Absolutely. Other whiteboard software? Yes. This is just one of others that you can choose to use. Now, we see that we have somebody who's done a little doodle, and that's something to keep in mind. Now that I've granted all of you edit access, that means anybody can do anything. The good news is, and I'm going to just jump to this right away, I want to find out who that was. Who's my one student who was playing? And I can go ahead and to the top right, they have 3 dots. I can move down and look at version history. This button wasn't here. You could do this back in the fall, but the button itself wasn't there. And some of you came in anonymously rather than being logged in. And for my experiment, you know, I'm not worried with what you scribble or what you do, but when you use this, your students will be signed in, and that will give you the details that you need to see and know. So as I click through the time, I can see right there, all right, it was anonymous users, and then I can back up in time. So it was right there at 11:16 a.m. when one of the anonymous users scribbled in. Didn't really give me a lot of details because you all approached this anonymously instead of being signed in. You'll do that slightly different with your students. I do have a presentation I'm going to pull some slides from. So that was our first experience with Jamboard. I'm going to move forward to the next frame. And this is a yes, no. And I want to quickly find out from you, have you used Jamboard or even seen Jamboard before today? Take your Post-it and move it to the proper column. In the past, we had clickers, we had student response systems, we had students bring their own device and maybe use an app to get this check for understanding or get this information. And we know we have 100% participation. And I'm missing one. So Lori didn't move her Post-it out of our 8 visitors, but that's okay. Can I put, now Lori, I saw you're unmuted. I'm not wanting to put you on the spot, but Dawn, you've heard of it, used it, which one?
I have used it. Someone else set it up. I have not actually designed my own Jamboard yet.
Okay. And Sandy confessed to scribbling on our screen, so that was nice of her. And then Michelle just typed in our chat, she's heard of it, but haven't used it yet. So thank you, Lori, for adding yours up there too. So it sounds like you guys are relatively new to this. It's been around quite some time, a couple years. A Jamboard, a physical board on a stand is out there. And then this was the software that accompanied it. But the majority of you likely have a short throw interactive projector that's mounted on the wall. Some of you are now getting clever touch boards. You're getting those 72-inch interactive televisions, so you don't have to deal with the projection and dark classroom any longer. And some of those have their own software. This is web-based, so it's a good whiteboard program that you can use on any device. And if your students have touchscreen Chromebooks, then they're able to take advantage of the drawing features as well. Collaborative, a whiteboard, that's really it, the majority of uses of Jamboard, and let's see what some of those tools are. So that was our 2 activities before I even tell you about the tools. So I'm going to go to the tools next. And just a waiting activity, this was already set up. I am using a presentation from Ester Parkshine. She had this wonderful presentation. She made it up back in August 2020. And she just, while some of you were waiting, I had to try to unscramble some of these words. They're pretty tough. And then these are the answers. I don't think any of us really had the chance to try them out, but word scramble can be a fun way to start your activity for the day. Seat work, that could be vocabulary words, just little brain teasers to get your students focused. What is Jamboard? I kind of said there, it's an interactive whiteboard and it is free. It's part of your Google Suite. And we already witnessed some collaboration. Brainstorming, like those scrambled words, and a check-in. So if we're talking about how are we feeling, what is our mood before we continue a lesson, let's do a self-check. And all of our interactive whiteboards in the past, I'm sure you were using virtual manipulatives in the past, and it's so easy to annotate. This is a tool that you would use over Google Slides when it comes to the writing and the drawing. You can so easily annotate, but it does have Google Slides similarities. Now, I am fine if you need to exit full screen out of this presentation and open another tab. If you're great at multitasking, go for it. If you say, whoa, I know myself, I'll get lost don't worry about making your own jam. That's all right. And that's what they call each file. It's a jam. But if you want to try multitasking, here's your chance. One place to go, just typing in the Omnibox on a Google Chrome browser, is typing jamboard.google.com. Another way is to go to your waffle, and that's what the little animation that Ester Parkshine has so graciously put in her presentation, showing us the waffle scrolling and getting Jamboard. So it's a little letter B icon. And there's a plus down at the bottom where you can, a nice orange ball to click a new jam. The tools, simple whiteboard tools. We're going to have our pens, markers, highlighters, and a brush, and very limited colors. It's not made to be fancy and weigh down your computer and bog it down. Those of you who have had a smart notebook over the years probably have experienced times when the program, because of all that variety and options, really bogged down your computer, but not this time. And an eraser. A selection tool will let you move around your sticky notes, your text boxes, and images that you put into your frame. And over on the animation, we're seeing a sticky note being made with some colors or even no color. So it just looks like text on the screen. They have an add image tool. So I want to show you a creative way soon on how to do that, using that. But if you have images on your computer, certainly upload them, Google search, if they're in your drive, and you can access your own images or shapes. Draw your own shapes using their shape tools of similar text box. And that laser tool is kind of reminiscent of the Magic Pen in Smart Notebook or in PowerPoint. They have kind of a little laser pointer. And so it kind of fades away shortly after. And that'll give you a way to get your students' attention. Making multiple frames. So if you were thinking, boy, Google Slides, they call those, well, slides. You could make new frames there at the top. And there's a plus to the left or the right of the existing frame. Pretty easy. So the frame bar is what they call that at the top. You just click the arrow to expand it and click it out of it, or the arrow to make it kind of zip up and disappear. 3 dots will let you duplicate slides. That's at the top right. And I got to watch my wording, sorry, to duplicate frames. And then there is a plus, I already mentioned, to add your new frames. 3 big ways. Make it a whiteboard just for you. If you're in class, if you're doing some tutoring, or if you have future remote learning, summer remote learning possibly, by all means, you don't have to share the Jamboard with anyone. You can be in, like I am, with a Zoom or Google Meet video conferencing tool, and you're just using it so you can write and you can deliver material. Or you can collaborate. And we did some of that. And you all, I gave you the link. And I made a mistake, didn't I? I didn't have that when I shared it, you could edit. My share link was just for view. Quickly, when nobody was doing anything, and when I had at least one of you speak up, that's when I learned, hey, I got to go to those share settings and fix that. If you would like, just like a Google document, a Google Slides presentation, a drawing, these can be assigned through Google Classroom independently, and you can make a copy for each student. So once you get your frames set, maybe it's a 5-frame template and it has 5 things for them to put on each frame, a drawing, maybe we need to figure out a solution to a problem, maybe they're highlighting, underlining, maybe they're drawing a picture. So whatever you decide, make sure that is ready before you assign it in Google Classroom. I want to go ahead and show you all some examples then. And let's talk about, get some things out of my way too. Let's talk about that assignment. So let me find out in our chat. do you use Google Classroom first off? So find that chat box. See if you can type in whether or not you use Google Classroom to give me some idea of those of you who are with me. And Sandy says yes, Dawn no, and I understand that for preschool. So some of you do, and Tammy says you don't anymore because you're using Otis. And Nikki, yep, all right. So more yeses than no. This will be really quick. I've already started a Google assignment in Classroom. And when I go down to add, I go to my Google Drive. As easy as that. It opens up. Whatever I've had open recently, those of course show first. That's always nice, very convenient. And I'll go ahead and grab this. It's the presentation you're all looking at. When I click insert, I get the same options that I would with a Google document or any other Google Suite file. I want them to have a copy. Now, if we're collaborating, yeah, go with edit, because that means it's one file. They all are going to work together with you. But keep in mind, they are editing the original. But make a copy for each student. Lets this become independent work. And then I would click assign after setting my other points, topic, if there's a due date, etc. So that's a quick splash and dash of Google Classroom to look at. Now, I'm going to run back here to our presentation real quick. When somebody tells you about something new, it is exciting and then it's also stressful, because then you're saying to yourself, I don't have time to start from scratch, or everything I already do is in Smart Notebook or PowerPoint, and I don't want to reinvent everything. Well, there are a lot of resources out there already, and I'm going to spend some of our time to point you to those people here. And just like whenever you find other examples, you all get lost down the rabbit path, but we'll get to these. This is an example from Science with Toby. What I like about Esther's presentation, she's provided the Twitter handles for these people up here. If you're not a Twitter user, I get that. Sometimes you just find those people though, type their name in a keyword search and then add Jamboard. And you'll find maybe the day they tweeted out their template, or people commented in their post and said, hey, can you share the template? Or it might even take you to their website. So we're going to visit a few people, but before we do, I want to show you an example here. So let's get that out of the way. And I'm going to stop my sharing. Now, what I have around me is stuff that's actually just laying around the house, but it fits with a Jamboard activity. So if any of you have ever had one of these in the past, maybe your children have one. So light brights, we see the little pegs that you would put in. This is a set that allows us to poke it through paper, little templates. I've got this light bright cube, so students can use that. And you're going to see why I'm showing these to you for a moment. More at the preschool level, I knew we had Dawn here with us. So a tool like this, a toy that students are physically putting in these little, kind of like the light bright, but no lights needed. You don't have to be in the dark. And that came with cards that also shows us some patterns that maybe the students would design. And you're probably thinking, all right, what does this have to do with Jamboard? I have one more. Julie, our math teacher in our group, might know where I'm going with this. And then if you're a teacher, if you do anything with coding, then similar, this is just another toy. And we can create a Jamboard activity out of this and students can build. But the actual toy that I have here is one with little tiles. But we can substitute all of this to make this electronic. And that's all it is. It's a substitution. It's not an enhancement or augmentation or redefinition at all of those activities. It's a substitute. So we could substitute with something like this template that I'm going to share with you. And put in the chat if any of you have some of those toys or have played with a light bright yourself. I want to see how many of you have had those type of toys in the past. So let me make sure I picked the right window. Oh, great. Peggy and Sandy have both had light brights in the past. Great. This is a template I came across. They're calling it Bright Puzzles. And it says, all right, you're just going to plot the dots by color. So some of what I haven't told you, and so let me get back to my point, the concept, the standards we would cover would be plotting points. So that's a throw in there for our math crowd. We could be hitting 5th, 6th, 8th algebra, geometry with plotting points, and we can do it this way with color and with a grid. This plot grid is actually a background option for the Jamboard frame. Now I'm looking at this one and I'm wondering, how do I get this background? So Light Puzzles, this is by Julia Dwight, and I have copied this. And actually, if you notice, I am able to add things to it, but what I'm not able to do, there we go. When I click on the arrow cursor, a few menu items appeared and it said set background. So I'm going to move on and I'm actually going to jump and show the entire presentation to skip ahead to this blank slide or blank frame. And that's really hard for me because I've done so much with Google Slides to say the word frame, so I apologize. But setting background is where you would get that grid to build this activity. That's a pretty small grid, so I could try one of their other grids. Still small. You can also zoom in. So let's see what this would look like coming in closer. And you can bring in your own image. So if you have a grid PDF or it would need to be changed into an image file, then you can bring that in there. But while I'm looking for a background, I can just do a Google image search and I'll do grid. See what we get. If I don't like one of their backgrounds. And let's see if we do large. I think I like this one a little better. We'll see. Looks really similar to the one that this example has. So much larger. I'm going to zoom out so you all can see that it fits. It didn't fill the page, but it's nice because this is the easiest way for you to lock in your background so the kids can't move it around. So that only shows whenever you have the arrow selection tool chosen. Now I want to go back to one of those other frames because I just skipped around a whole bunch on you all. Some of the templates you're going to come across in the folder that's filled with goodies that I have come across to give to you, they might have instructions like this one does. Some don't. Some of their websites actually provide the instructions, then you go copy the presentation. And then this one is already done, but what the students would do is add coordinates. So how is this activity? You're like, it's a substitution. I'm not really thrilled or wowed about it. Well, Think of it this way, though. You can redefine what students are doing with this type of plotting activity because now they can be the creators. They're not just the consumers, but you can give them a blank grid and have them plot points. They have the answers. And once they become the creators of that activity, they're going to really be able to show you that they know and understand these plots and points. Now, we haven't done, I mean, you could be out playing with your own copy or your own jam that you created. I want you all to look at the pen here for a moment on my screen. So if you were multitasking, I want you to take a peek. How many colors do we have? And you could just put it in the chat, or somebody wants to unmute your mic. Go ahead. Five colors. White is in there, but yeah, if this is a white, yeah, so six. We have 6 colors. Now, I'm only responding here. I want to share this, and I do have this in my folder. Anyone can view. Okay. You will just, and this is a good example where you all, once I give you this link, and I'm putting it in the chat, then you're able to learn how you make your own copy for editing. Because I know I'm giving you on purpose a link where you can only view it. So 6 colors, and any of you who are observant enough, do these colors match what is in this example? And again, feel free to unmute your mic if that's easier. Just holding down your space bar is a really quick way to unmute yourself for a temporary moment. No response in our chats. Seeing this kind of dark green, but our dinosaur character has like a neon green. So how else could I get these other colors? Could I use circles? Kind of looks like the same 6 colors. Let me try to do green. Okay. Not the same green, that's for sure. I can make it transparent. This was a thinker for me, since I'm not hearing from anyone in our group. The way a person can get additional colors is by going to this add image and type in whatever color you want. As you see, I had already done this, so my last search was up. I typed what shape I wanted. And the reason I followed this by PNG is so that I would get a transparent background. That way the circles don't cover up my grid with a white square frame. So now I can grab one of these orange circles that's really an image. It wasn't a paintbrush spot. It wasn't a shape. And for a temporary period, you'll see there that it had a white background, but it detected that it's a PNG. And now I can resize this. And my orange circle is not exactly the same orange circle as theirs. And you're thinking, oh, good glory, there's no way I'm going to spend all that time building this, or my students, they'll be in this forever. What you can do is duplicate. You probably are used to copy and pasting, whether it's Control-C or Command-C, Control-V, and Command-V, whether you're Mac or PC users. But Control-D or Command-D, that's the one that can save you a ton of time. It basically is doing the copy and the paste at one time for you. And now you have multiple shapes that are easy to move around. So at first glance, you'd probably would have thought nothing of the colors. You're like, 6 colors. But I knew looking at this, as soon as you guys were to go farther or asked to go further with this and be creators themselves, one of them is going to ask, but I don't want those 6 colors. I want something else. And I wanted to be sure that you had the tools to go out and the skills to find other. Now these are images, even though it's a shape, you can easily bring in those shapes as images to continue building with the bright puzzle. I want to pause. Are there any questions? And if anybody tried this on their own copy, you might just be looking at the same one I am in. So I want to do this in our group because we are using Zoom. And those of you who are watching the recording, you won't need to participate in this. But if you can find in your Zoom window, for those of you who are live, if you can give me a reaction. So reactions are across the bottom of the screen. You can give me a thumbs up, a heart, or a green check to let me know. I will continue if you all feel you're good. So I'm seeing some thumbs up out there. And yes, thank you, Julie and Michelle. Okay, more thumbs up from Dawn and Nikki. And how you feeling out there, Tammy? You're the one I'm least worried about, but I still want to check on you. Sometimes finding that little reactions button, or you can't access Jamboard. Okay, it's not part of your Google Apps. So thank you, Tammy, for letting me know that is possible. It's not on by default at all districts. So it's a quick request to your tech coordinator to say, hey, I can't get in. Now you can jump out and maybe go to your own personal Gmail if you have that account, like a second account with Google, and then you can get to Jamboard as well. I haven't tested that myself, so if I have misspoken, I apologize on that. But for Tammy, she should be able to get that approved pretty quickly and easily. It's just the switch. It just wasn't on by default. And honestly, I'm surprised more of you didn't let me know or have that announcement saying, uh-oh, I couldn't get in. So we're doing pretty good. That tells me most of our districts are turning it on. So that was the example where I wanted to go and show you something a little different. On the surface, it seemed really easy and simple. And you have the link in our chat if you need to make your own copy that is editable. Go up to those 3 dots and then you can do several things. You can make a copy. And when it comes up, it'll actually have the words copy of, and then appends the title. And I might say my bright puzzles. Or even rename it light bright. I mean, I'm sure they're trying to stay away from copyrighted titles, and then decide which location it's going to go into and click OK. And then a copy will open in a new tab. And if you didn't put it into a particular if you didn't put it in a particular folder, then you'll be able to if you need to. Any questions about the bright puzzles example? I know not everyone in this group is math oriented, but I thought that would kind of fit a large crowd, meaning that it's even good for early learners with a touch screen. And I wanted to show you too how inserting images is a way to get additional colors for objects, whether it be little squares to put into the grid or little circles. Okay, no questions. Similar to this, I just wanted to give a shout out to another class we have coming up, is using Google Sheets for pixel art. So don't let the word art kind of make you think, well, no, that's just for art class, but certainly for math, for science, maybe you're in a STEM type situation, then Google Sheets, that's going to be on the 10th and it's 8:45. Check that out. That's Erin Bauman from Ashland City. She'll be showing you guys how Google Sheets, for those of you who want to take that, like the bright puzzles, to another level. So I'm going to close up that example. You have it in the chat, the link to the file. You now know clicking the 3 dots is how you make yourself a copy. And I'm going to go back to my presentation only to show you something. And it happened to be on this frame. A lot of people are designing and laying out their objects, and then a feature, what you can do is hit the 3 dots and save the frame as an image. And I thought, okay, I want to do that. I was copying what someone else had made. So this yes, no frame comes from someone else, but it's not like Google Slides. I couldn't just take frame 2 and copy it and then go to a new Jamboard and paste it. So here's where we're going to probably start dividing, saying, all right, some of the good things about Jamboard, some of the bad things about Jamboard. So I'm actually talking about kind of the bad right now. That if I'm looking at this, it looks pretty high quality. I'll zoom in here so we can see. Let's do a large enough percent. So the quality looks decent on those circles. These were images I brought in. And actually, I believe they came in as a pair. And using my arrow tool, I had gone ahead, used those 3 dots, because I wanted that to be locked in. I didn't want students to move my buttons around and move my frames around for each section of the screen. And when I did save frame as image, I will reveal for you what's hiding below, because I do have pieces over top. And what I did was gone up to set background and I brought the image in. If anybody wants to unmute their mic or tell me in the chat, do you see any difference? So Tammy's nodding her head. She has her video showing and I can see her. She's nodding, but what's the difference? Help me out. Details. Okay, Nikki says in the chat, yeah, one's more clear. She's right. And Michelle, yeah, quality. I was really shocked. So if you think you want to mock up like a 4-corner frame or a T-chart, any graphic organizers, and you thought, oh, I'm in Jamboard, I'll just make it here, and then I'll go up to the 3 dots, and I'm just going to save that frame as an image and bring it back in as a background. I'm going to let you all know it's not going to look that great. Yeah, the quality is not as good as the original. So where would you do that? A lot of people would just hop out of Jamboard, go to Google Slides, design it there, because we have so much more control in Google Slides. And in Jamboard, we can't set the size. It is what it is. And I'm just going to open a new tab to do that. Slides.new. And I would do my designing here. Slides lets you do the same thing. If you're wanting to have an image, you can basically do an export. You're going to save it as. But the first thing under the file menu for slides, I'm going to click the page setup because I want to know, all right, what's the quality? What am I really going to get? I'm measuring 10 inches, 10 by 5. You can, if you understand pixels, usually 72 per inch is the number to go by. But if you don't want to do math, and you just want to go by numbers we're used to, 10 by 8, you can hit apply. And then that's actually already measured out for you. And you're basing it on inches, something you might understand and be more familiar with. And now I could insert image just like I would have in Jamboard. I'm going to go to the web, maybe try a yes, no. And I don't know if I'll get the same choice. Yep, here he is. When I bring that in, size it, and design, maybe I just need to put a bar down the center. Nothing too fancy. And if this is done, then in slides, I can go to File and download, and it can be a JPEG, or it could be a PNG. Even a SVG, that means it's more scalable. You can go larger or smaller. Now, some people were even coming in here and making like talk bubbles and then bring those over into Jamboard. But if someone else has already made it, I'm not gonna go through all that effort, because usually searching the Google images, you're gonna find talk bubbles, graphic organizers, buttons very easily instead of totally designing them on your own. But when you need to do something more like this, I wanted the line down the center. Well, that's more than just a button. And the benefit then of having this on the screen is, let me just go to a fresh page. So I'll show you how to bring in that background image. And I'm moving way down, and I gave you all slides, or there I am again. I gave you all frames. If you have worked on during this class your own Jam, I'd like you to come back to our presentation if that tab is still open for you. And I want you to paste a link to your own Jamboard so we could see what you've made. It's not a requirement, it's just an option in case some of you are multitasking. So I'm going to head here. I know I have a blank slide. Blank frame. Boy, you could tell it's close to lunch for me. I'm going to need to feed my brain some peanut butter and jelly and do some more jamming. So on this blank frame, I would set background. I would click the add image, and I would need to upload this one because it was in my downloads just now. Let's see if that's going to work for me. There it is. I didn't even title it in slides. And it's coming in. And voila. Let's see. How does it look? Not as bad. There's still a little bit of artifacting, but I'm zoomed in pretty large. So you can make that background. It's going to be glued to the surface. The kids won't be able to move and monkey it all around. And then you can bring in your Post-its. So those sticky notes, apologies, because Post-it would be a trademark name. And you can put whatever you need to. Put names on those, change the colors of them, move them around. Again, the tip, if you didn't already know, for scaling, I'm scaling this down before I make duplicates, is the Control or Command D. Whoops. Let me see, I wasn't selected on my sticky. So that's how you can get copies of those. They're all the same size, and then you would just change student names. Now with only 3 minutes, I'm shocked that I didn't get to show you all more of the resources, but also by showing you all these resources, that's where I lose folks. They start digging into those. On the presentation, we are going to see a lot of resources that you can get to. So this is one. I'm going to paste this in. You're also going to see that this Jam only has 20 frames. I want that to be very clear for all of you. That's the limit. 20 frames, only 30 users simultaneously. After 30, it gets glitchy, I've been told. Technically, 50 users is the limit. Some of the things, that is kind of disappointing is I can't have hyperlinks that are live. That's why I had to copy this for you and paste it. You can at least paste the full link. And you can't select multiple items like you can in slides. So if this item and this text box, I needed to select them together, I can't. It just doesn't let me do that. So if I was trying to scale a group of stickies down to size, I better make sure I have it scaled first because I'm not able to scale them later. I have to do them one by one. So I think I have some of those important details out to you. Back in our presentation, Erin Roberts, Kris Szajner, they have wonderful templates, and I have given all the links to those on slide 17, frame 17 in our jam. And Eric Curts has also a group of rainbow scratch-offs. You can get to all of these through my one folder that's going to be in the recording video description. I've also put it in the chat just now. So that drive folder is going to have all of those. I've even organized some folders for everybody. There's games. Think of this just like your whiteboard, whatever interactive whiteboard tool you use now. So all of Eric's rainbow drawing templates are there. These shareable Jamboards, those are from Erin Roberts. He has in there formative assessments. He has check-ins. I also had kind of a K2 collection and a 3-5 collection, handwriting templates. So that way you could leave this session and have a ton of goodies. Just make sure when you access the folder, you can click add to my drive. And then you have access to my folder. And in the future, when you need to work on your own, just make copies by clicking those 3 dots at the top right. Any questions? Because I see we're at the end of our time.
Rebecca, can I ask a question?
Go ahead, Melissa.
For the daily check-ins where you used the sticky note feature, if
Yeah.
I want to use that, maybe not every day, but a few days a week, am I going to have to go through each time and make up a sticky note for every single student for every single period? Or is there a way to like group those and save those? Do you know what I mean?
You, for each period, I would make a separate jam for each period of the day. But let's say you make the first one. First period has 25 kids, you've made 25 stickies, then you can copy the entire jam. So at the 3 dots, you can make an entire copy of this. So then I just make a copy, make that for second period, but you will have to manually go inside each sticky and type the names. Did that answer your question?
Do I have to do that every time I want to do a check-in, or?
Oh, no, not at all. I mean,
that was what I was wondering.
You could use the version history to set that back at the end. I know back in the day, Smart Notebook, you would just close it, and when it prompted you and you said, oh, do you want to save changes? We just kept saying, no, don't save the changes. And then it put all the names back in place. And because of autosave, we don't get that. So at the end of each day, you just go back to the very beginning and you look at it, and then you hit restore this version. So then that would make it where all the stickies are back in the original location.
Got
Not
it. Thank
as
you so much.
easy. Yeah, it's
No,
a little work
that's
though.
not hard. Thank you.
Yeah. And the advantages of Jamboard over Google Slides, first and foremost right here is this pen. I'm telling you, because we're able to, like, if you have a drawing tablet, I have a pretty large trackpad, and then I have just a freebie pen with a stylus cushion. I can draw, and that's what we're after with Jamboard over slides. Our math teachers, our science, anybody who's needing to write and draw, that is its strength over slides far, and you know, just that's the benefit. So that concludes this session. And I'm going to stop our recording for everybody.